Another week of football in the NFL is done for 2025, and the Week 16 predictions are out as Ed Kleese joins us for another Big Bowl predictions here on PigskinDispatch.com. The season's winding down, and Ed could be pushing me off of the edge here with his point selections. I got to come back.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time.
Before we get into our episode today, let's take the time to drill that football right into the like and subscribe button on your console so you know exactly when the notifications come up of the latest releases of Pigskin Dispatch podcast for some more great football history. Now on to our episode. Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of PigskinDispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pig Pen, your portal to positive football history, and welcome to our weekly big bold predictions for the 2025 NFL season. And as we've done all year long, Ed Kleese joins us to tell his perspective, make his picks, and talk some great football. Ed, welcome back to the Pig Pen.
Hey, Darren. How are you?
I am doing great, flying a little high after that Monday night game, and 23 in a row for the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football.
I bet you are. You know what's funny about that? So, yes, they are 23-0 on games that were scheduled to be on Monday Night Football. Did you know in 2020, you remember the game they played against Washington in 2020 when they were undefeated?
Yeah, it was like
home?
Thursday or something.
It was Monday.
It ended up moving to Monday. Okay.
Because they moved it to Monday. So the game was played on a Monday night, and they lost. But because it wasn't scheduled as Monday Night Football, they don't count it as a Monday Night Football record.
Ah, okay.
So but I remember it. It's sort of like the silly thing they do with the Sunday Night Football on Thursday night to start the year. Like that opening game on Prime is not considered a Thursday Night Football game. It's Sunday Night Football on Thursday night, So anyway,
hey, if they play the song, singing Sunday night, can't wait for Sunday night or wherever the hell the words go. They don't care what day of the week is. It's Sunday.
So in my sick brain last night, when they mentioned they're undefeated on Monday night, I wanted to raise my hand and be like, "Did you know? Did you know?" So now you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
I understand the Monday Night Football because that's a tradition. You're pre-scheduled for the MNF game, and Sunday Night Football. They're trying to make it like Monday Night Football, but I grew up in the era of Monday Night Football when it was the game of the week, and Sunday night hasn't replaced it.
But you just have to answer this question honestly, though. If they say, "Do the Steelers have a Monday Night Football winning streak?" You say yes, and then they say, "Have the Steelers lost a game on Monday night at home?" And you have to say yes. So you have to reconcile that somehow.
Well, there's a difference between winning on Monday night or winning on Monday Night Football. If it's officially a Monday night, that's what I'm saying. It's a Monday Night Football game.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So with that in mind, I was a little, jealous of you and all the other fans out there who are watching meaningful football, because we talked about this a little bit the last few weeks about the teams that aren't competing and the few that are kind of dead and done. And so I want to recognize a soldier among us. And that soldier is me. Because this past Sunday, I've told you that, we're very strict about how we do our screens here. We put a main game on the big screen, and then we multi-view with 4 screens on the smaller screen, right? So we usually got 5 going at once. And it's sort of an honor when you're chosen as the main game. And the Commanders game is always the main game if it is on. It was a little almost embarrassing to have to put the Commanders-Giants game on the main screen on Sunday when there's all these – that's 3-10 against 2-11 in a dismal atmosphere in New York, cold, snowy, half-empty stadium. It's kind of funny that we're watching that game. But I told my kids, I said, this is the price you pay. This is what we have to do. This is how you earn your fan stripes. So thinking of fan stripes, so I thought about it this way. I said, okay, the last time the Commanders made the playoffs in back-to-back seasons was they won the Super Bowl in 91. They were the wild card in 1992. That is the last time they've made the playoffs in back-to-back years. I really thought this year we would erase that. We did not. And I got to thinking, that's 33 seasons, including this one, since then. How many seasons out of the 33, Darren, do you think Washington played the final quarter of their games, so four or more, where they were either officially eliminated from the playoffs or essentially eliminated from the playoffs? Out of those 33 seasons, how many come, say, December 1st, do you think they were already done?
I'm going to say 50%.
You're right at it, pretty much. A little over, actually. It's 17 out of 33 seasons. So basically half of my life watching this team, we've had to reconcile the end of the year, figuring out reasons to watch a team for four or more games at least at the end of the season that was done. And that isn't easy. And I feel like you really pay your dues as a fan in those times. And then I figured this out. There were 8 more seasons, so 25 out of 33, where they were eliminated before the last game of the season. So the few of those they, hung on. So only 8 times in the last 33 years has my team been alive for the playoffs going into the last week of the season. So I am used to this. This is what we do in my house. And like I said, basically what I root for around the league then is just pain. I want other people to join us in our misery. And I was like, you'll be on the screen soon enough. Sort of like, we're here now. So yes, grappling with the bitterness and patting myself on the back for being a good soldier through yet another rough, sad December is where my mind went this week.
Well, I feel for you a little bit. I can't appreciate what you're going through,
You
but
can't at all.
I can tell you, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I can tell you there's franchises that wish to be in your position to be in the playoffs 50% of the time because there's many that are much less than that.
No, Darren, this is 50% of the time we were eliminated by December. And 25 out of 33 seasons, we were eliminated by week 18. We didn't even make we've only made,
right,
and
but
you
don't think that there's some franchises worse than that?
They're the only ones that are close. There are a couple.
I was gonna say Cleveland's got to be
Cleveland. Cleveland is worse. Miami over the past 25-ish years is in our neighborhood.
I would probably say the Cardinals are probably in that.
The Cardinals are in the neighborhood, yes. The Lions were, but they have worked their way out of it.
Maybe Chicago.
No,
nowhere near.
No, the Bears have they're not good, but they're not in the dreck with us.
The Jets, some of those
franchises.
There's some franchises that have had some long suffering out there, and
last year you'd have to figure out how you reconcile last year because finally last year we made it to the NFC Championship game for the first time in 33 years. So we checked that box. Also, that was the first time we won as many as 11 games in 33 years. That's crazy. And that we were the only team that hadn't done that. Even the Browns had won at least 11 once over that period. And I think they did it twice. So we erased a few of those things last year, which is nice. But in terms of actually being involved in the NFL come New Year's Day, there are only a handful of teams that are in that same pile with us, unfortunately.
Well, there's some good things to say about that, and there's some bad things because I can tell you as a spoiled fan base of the Steelers, we are on pins and needles every year at New Year's. New Year's is never relaxing. You're always on the bubble. You don't know if you're in or you're out, and you have to win that last game, which I guess in some ways sounds exciting, but it's very nerve-wracking that they can't finish things off and make it, so you can rest your players the last game. I don't think the Steelers are very rarely in that position, even though they make the playoffs quite often.
The Steelers are one of the many teams that over the years I was extremely jealous of. Now, that, like I said, we've talked about this many times, so I don't want to get too deep into it, but with our ownership change and everything changing, I no longer feel the dark cloud the cloud of darkness that we can never escape. I know I don't feel that way anymore. However, we need to string some seasons together in a row before that PTSD starts to totally fade away.
Yeah, and you know, I know it's been a hard season. You've had a lot of injuries with Washington this year, and I hear that they're sitting Jaden Daniels down for the rest of the season. So maybe that's a good thing to let the guy heal. He's probably not fully healthy. Let him heal up, live to fight another day because and see what your prospects are behind him. Maybe even beyond Mariota. You know what he is, but maybe see what your third string and beyond are as
Well,
far as
our third string, Darren, is 39 years old. It's Josh
oh,
Johnson. So
oh, okay, maybe so maybe hey, well, if Philip Rivers at 44 can come in and have a quite a performance
that's
and put
right.
Seattle on the ropes, and maybe a 39-year-old
We
Johnson that hasn't played very much has a lot of gas left in the tank, you know?
I'm mildly looking forward to seeing us play the Eagles because it matters to Philly, and that could be kind of a fun game. Take a shot at them to maybe hurt them on the way out. However, this is playing out the string, get these three over with, and start thinking about 2026.
There you go. There you go. And you get some good draft capital going into it.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
that'll be good.
So, and then along those lines, the other thing that blew my mind, my bigger picture observation for this week was I did a little some counting, and I tried to. This is kind of arbitrary, but we talk about the roller coaster of the NFL season and how long the season is, and how it doesn't feel that way in week three because you feel like, oh my god, the season could be on the line right now, and it feels like you're gonna blow it. Um, or if a team starts 5-1, you think they're a lock, right? But I counted how many? I think I counted 15 out of the 32 teams have what I would consider to have had a roller coaster season this year, where they weren't the team at the end of the year that they were in the beginning or maybe the middle, or they were so inconsistent all year long that they never got a grasp. Like an exception to that, so the teams that wouldn't qualify would be like the NFC West. All of those teams: Rams, Seahawks, 49ers, and even at least three of them: Rams, Seahawks, 49ers. They've been consistent. Those are three teams that were pretty good week one. They didn't have any major lulls or valleys throughout the year, and they're still good in December. But there's only half the league can qualify. You even talk about like the Patriots. They lost an opener to the Raiders, and then they started the season 1-2, and then exploded. And then you have like the Dolphins, who started 1-6, and then got to 6-7. You have us, the Commanders, that were 3-2, and then went on an 8-game losing streak. Then you have teams like Dallas that looked bad, then they looked good, then they looked bad, then they looked good, and it just back and forth, back and forth. Teams like the Bucks and the Colts, who were both 5-1 at one point, I believe, and at one point they were the one seeds, and now they're probably not going to make the playoffs, or at least the Colts won't, and the Bucks are fighting for their lives. So just sort of and then the Texans, goodness gracious, they look like they can win the Super Bowl now, and they looked dreadful in as recently as mid-October. So, and then of course the Chiefs, who bad start, good middle, miserable end.
Really miserable end.
Yeah, exactly. So there's and then like a team like the Saints, the opposite way. Rough first three quarters of a season and look like they're going to finish strong. So just a little reminder, if we're lucky enough to still be doing this this time next year, to not panic, not freak out, and understand that in October, Halloween, even Thanksgiving, things may not be what they seem in the NFL, because you gotta make it through the long haul.
Yeah, that's for sure. And teams that you didn't mention, the Ravens, how
Yep.
they've been, came out just well, again, they were like the Washington, just horrific injuries plagued them in the especially the beginning of the season, and really, really dug themselves a hole that they can't quite seem to get out of, and just trying to stay level, and might not be good enough.
Yeah, the Ravens are on the list. The Bengals, the Colts, Chiefs, Commanders. There's others. Falcons, who had a pretty good start, and
Yeah.
and then went way downhill. Even the Cardinals got off to a pretty good start this year, look competitive, and then they've just been on a horrible slide. So just something to remember next year. If a team's 3-1, let's not anoint them too quick.
Yeah. or dismiss anybody that's one in
Exactly.
five because we've seen a couple teams come back from that and at least be in the hunt here near the end.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So I guess it's time to go into our last week results, even though I probably don't want to.
Well, you did finish ahead of me. So you did a little bit better than I did. This is a middling week for you and I
Yeah.
this week. We'll start with you're gonna start off you start off well. You called the Ravens game almost perfectly. You thought that they would go into Cincinnati and roll the Bengals.
I
Um,
didn't think they'd shut him out. I wish I would
they shut
have
them
known
out.
that.
They shut them out. So that was a very easy win. That was not one of those games where sometimes the score is misleading. Nah, that was pretty much what it was. A
And
little surprising to see the Bengals offense and Burrow struggle that way.
they ran 71 offensive plays and had
Saw that.
0 points. I mean, I don't know how you do that. I think you and I could run 71 plays and at least have a field goal, you'd
Well, you
think.
do it by driving down the field and then turning the ball over. So
Yeah.
they did that. They did that a few times. A miserable, the Bengals had a glimmer there for a few weeks, just a little sliver of hope. And boy, that door slammed very fast. And now it's just a bad 4-10 football team.
Yeah,
But
that's for
but you
sure.
nailed that. You got that one perfect. You're also going to get two because you had the Bills going into New England and pulling off the W. That was, I think, it could wind up being maybe one of the more consequential games of the year, just depending on how things play out in the AFC. And if nothing else, it's a message, I think, from Josh Allen and the Bills a little bit.
Yeah, being down by 21 at one point, and they looked like they were dead to rights that the Patriots just had their number, and it looked like it was going to be an onslaught. And something changed with the Bills, and they really came on again at the end and pulled it off. That was a good game and a lot of fun to watch.
It was, and I think really that's one of those things where I always feel like when the team is behind at half, they're down 24-7 at half. And if you're receiving the ball to start the second half, that is your moment to get back in the game, right? So, because you're like down 24-7, but if you can score out of the half, even if it's just a field goal, then you're within two scores. There's a ton of time left, and you sort of feel like you've survived it. So it's sort of like it feels like a do or die moment for me when a team's down and they get the ball to start the second half. Like, this is your chance. The Bills cashed it in immediately. So they immediately made that a game again in the second half. And then it's sort of like, oh man, Patriots can't really bleed this clock for 2 quarters now. It's just a game. So yeah, credit to the Bills. That's a huge win for them. And you nailed it. So you got your two there. You're going to get one because I kind of waffled on this, but I think you only deserve one. For the Broncos, you had the Broncos beating the Packers, which was you get your one. You had their defense holding the Packers to 20 or less. And gosh, their defense was great in the second half of that game, but they really struggled in the first half. The Packers did score
Mhm.
the first 5 times they had the ball. So I kind of halved it for you there and gave you one on that game.
All
Uh,
right, fair enough. They did wasn't 20. It was more than 20, so
yep.
fair enough.
Big fat zero for the Chiefs. You had them
Ooh.
bouncing back in kind of a big way against the Chargers.
I,
For a
I I
minute
think
there,
I think Mahomes doesn't get hurt on that play. I think they have a chance of going down scoring and making that a game to
I think
win.
it's probably going to overtime at least because you'd think he gets them into field goal range and doesn't make the mistake that Minshew made. So you think that that's probably at least going to overtime. But man, watching that game even before he got hurt, that was like, all right, we've talked about it all year long. The switch, they don't have the switch. They can't block. He's under duress every play. The receivers do not get open, and they're just not good. They're just
Hmm.
not good. That doesn't mean they couldn't have found a way to win that game, but they're not very good. I didn't think the Chargers were that great on Sunday, and the Chiefs still couldn't get it done. So you're going to get a zero on that one. You're also going to get a zero because you had the Panthers rolling the Saints.
Well, there was some rolling, but it wasn't.
And you know what's and I kicked myself because in all my pick'ems and the things I do with my friends, and I think I mentioned it on the pod that I'd be opposite of you, but I didn't have the guts to put it on my sheet because I thought the Saints would win that game outright, and they did. but I do not get any
Yeah,
points for that.
who'd think the Saints winning two in a row in 2025? You wouldn't think
Yeah,
that.
really, exactly. But they look, their defense has been pretty good the last few weeks. And if Shuck, because that's always they say his name, right? Shuck
Yeah, yeah.
is way too early to say anything other than he looks competent and they're moving the ball better than they did earlier in the year. So I think if you're a Saints fan right now, you're pleased. And you're one of the few teams that probably isn't in let's get this season over with. It's more like, hey, I'm excited to watch these last three games and see what we got.
Yeah, right.
Uh,
That's an amazing thing. That's a team we didn't mention earlier that
right.
really turned it around. They were really going gangbusters here.
Yep. Yep. So that's 5 points for you, and gives you 67 for the year. I also am going to wear the zero with you, the big goose egg on the Chiefs game, because I said the same thing. I went to the well several times this year on the Chiefs, like, oh, this is the week, this is the week. And it really never wound up being the week all year long. So the big zero for me on that one. I'm going to get a zero for the same Packers Broncos game we talked about a minute ago that you got the 1 point for, because I had the opposite. I had the Packers winning a low scoring game. Another really fun, compelling, exciting late season, late window game. That was a good one. That felt like two really good teams going at it.
In another game on Sunday where a devastating injury to a
Yes.
superstar of the NFL with Micah going down.
Yeah, it's tough. And I know, and everybody talks about what can the NFL do? What can we do? And I don't know what that answer is. I mean, because both Mahomes and Parsons go down on what looks like just standard looking plays. Both are on grass, so it's, I don't know. I know everybody's kind of freaked out about all these injuries it's talk about the wear and tear, but they
And
actually there's less contact now than there ever has been in football before in terms of practices and off season, and all that. So I'm not sure what the answer is.
Yeah, no, those were definitely, I mean, they were under some pressure and some activity on the play in the heat of the action, but really not contact as you would think in professional football. Mahomes just was so awkward and, just
Yeah,
makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up.
I,
And,
I,
and Micah, you could see when him changing direction suddenly, when the quarterback got moved, that you could see he had some angst of pain.
I'm a big basketball fan too. I think I've mentioned it a couple times, and I listen to the Bill Simmons podcast a lot. Who does a lot of NBA stuff. He does NFL stuff too, but he's an NBA guy. And his theory on the NBA guys and why we've seen more Achilles, knee injuries, soft tissue injuries is just simple as the game moves so fast. These guys are so much bigger. They're so much faster. There's more plays in a game. Like in the NBA, there's way more running than there ever used to be. Somebody did a study where they're running in a game like miles more than they used to, just because the pace of the game is different. So you're literally just going up and down the floor more often. And it's not even so much about how many games you're playing. It's just like as you're playing. So in the NFL, we see more plays, we see a faster pace. So maybe it's just the law of averages. You just X amount of plays in a game, X amount of rushes in a game off the edge, as opposed to the way it used to be, then maybe it's as simple as that. More opportunity.
Yeah, I think, I'm not a medical expert by any means, and maybe I'm way off base on this, but just my quick observation is I think it's what Simmons said has some truth. These guys are bigger, faster, stronger. They're putting muscle on like human beings have never had muscle on their bodies before. And I don't think that the ligaments and tendons and everything can handle that because those don't grow, to my knowledge, like muscles do. And maybe that's what it is. It's just too much muscle capacity and too much strain of what we're doing with our muscles and professional athletes today that are
Well,
doing that.
that's exactly why I try not to bulk up too much. I just don't want to, that's why, I want to keep some soft layers in between me and my torn ACL. That's why.
Yeah, that's why I sit on a computer or sit on a couch
Yes, it's much
much more
safer.
often.
I just
I
don't want to be a statistic,
that's
so
that's right. Good
um
theory.
I'm also going to get a zero for the Lions. I had them in a game down to the wire and pulling out a win in LA. I didn't really believe that they were going to win the game in LA, but that was sort of my bold prediction. I did think it was going to go down to the wire, and it didn't. I mean, unless you really want to stretch it there, they did get within 7 for a minute, but the Rams were clearly the better team in that game. So I was not correct.
Yeah, that was a tough one to pick, and tough to pick the Lions on that one. But
Yeah, I didn't really have my heart in that one, but that Lions defense just they're not that great. They got run over, and time is running out for Detroit. We'll talk about them here in a minute. So that's no points for me so far. I am going to get 2 for the Bills, just like you did. I had the Bills winning by 4 or more in New England. They won by 4, so I was saved from getting my extra point there. And then I'm going to get 2 for calling your Steelers steamrolling the Dolphins on Monday night. And that's what that was. That was a steamrolling. I said in our analysis last year, picking that game, that the Dolphins have turned their season around in spite of Tua, and that I thought the Steelers would probably make him beat them, and they did, and he couldn't. So a nice turnaround for the Dolphins this year, but I don't think they can feel very confident or comfortable with their quarterback situation moving forward. And a really nice win for the Steelers, coming off the win against the Ravens. Right? Was that 2 weeks ago? Where am I? Was that last week? The Ravens when they beat the Ravens?
yeah, they beat the Ravens
Yeah,
last
they
week.
beat the Ravens. So you could have maybe had a little bit of a letdown there. They certainly did not. They looked strong on Monday.
Yeah, it was interesting. Mike Tomlin on his media day on Tuesday was commenting about the Monday night game, and he said one of the big turnarounds that they had at the end of the first half. Because I remember Steelers didn't score till less than a minute left. That was their first score, and then they got the ball in the second half and scored 3 consecutive times there to go up 28-3 or whatever it was at that point. But he said one of the big turning points is something that they studied, that Miami did not have enough cornerbacks. They were playing Minka Fitzpatrick, former Steeler, in 3 wide receiver sets as a corner in coverage. So instead of the Steelers with 4 top tight ends, who 2 of them had touchdowns last night, first time in NFL history, 2 running scores by 2 different tight ends on the same
Ah,
team. That was which I found kind of interesting when with Hayward and Jonnu Smith. But anyway, that's what Tomlin said they started doing: 3 wide receiver sets with new pickups, Thielen and MVS, along with DK Metcalf, who was just a beast on his touchdown. He takes the forearm shiver to the one guy and throws him out of the way and then goes to the end zone. But he said that was one of the big things that did it, and that helped the running game, which was kind of stagnant in the first half. Steelers really couldn't get the ball going at all against Miami, who was really hard hitting coming out of that game.
they're a well coached team. The Steelers are well coached. They always are. I understand some of the frustration there sometimes with Tomlin and feeling stuck at times. But generally speaking, this time of the year, the Steelers are going to get it done more often than not, especially against a team they should beat, like
Yeah.
Miami.
Yeah, they got some tough ones coming up, but hopefully some guys will start getting healthy here and start getting the defense back together with TJ Watt and Harmon and some of those folks coming back.
Yep. So your Steelers got me the 2, which gives me saves a week for me in some ways. That gives me 4 for the week. So you beat me by 1 for the week, and you
Hmm.
narrowed the gap. So now I have a 71-67 lead over you. 4. It was
Four
5 at the end of
points.
last week. Now it's 4.
Okay, we'll keep chipping away. I'm gonna run out of
Keep chipping
time here,
away.
but
Well, let's see what you got for me this week.
well, before we get into that, let's do this. Now, are we going to take this into the playoffs, or are we going to say regular season? That's the end of our
Oh, we
competition.
should take it to the playoffs. We need to
Okay,
come up with something a little different, though. We
maybe we
need to
take it right to this end to the Super Bowl. We'll have a
let's do
Super
it.
Bowl show. Let's go the whole way.
Let's go the whole way. I'll ponder some ways to make it a little more interesting in the playoffs.
Yeah, we may have to have some personal statistics of players
Something.
or
We'll
teams
come
or
up with
something.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's take it. Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. All right. So going into week 16, we're going to make our predictions, and I believe you, sir, have the first choice.
Okay. Well, I've spent a lot of time last several weeks talking about all the lousy teams, including mine. So I decided this week to only pick games that involved teams, at least one team in the game that was relevant. So there's no dregs here. So I'm going to start with Thursday. Maybe the first time the Seahawks and Rams played, we called it maybe the matchup of the year. And now it is part 2. And I anticipate another very big game. I am. This feels like a real coin flip to me because I've said many times how much I love McVay, and the Rams have the better quarterback, and there's really no arguing that. But I'm picking the Seahawks on Thursday night. It's sort of a law of averages game to me. Adams is banged up. Puka might be a little banged up. The short week, which probably matters a little bit less this week because it's such an important game. So I think that everybody's going to be fully locked and loaded for the game. But I'm going to give Darnold the benefit of the doubt and say that he plays a lot better, doesn't hand the ball over nearly as much, and that the Seahawks survive and beat the Rams Thursday night.
Well, I'm kind of disappointed you picked that because I picked very similarly in that, and it won't let me pick up many points, but maybe it will with my extra prediction on this. I think the Seahawks are going to win this game, take the lead in the NFC West, and make it a lot more interesting to talk about by splitting that series. But their defense is going to set up a score in the second half, late in the second half, for a touchdown. Either they're going to score it or they're going to set up one for the offense. It's going to make the difference to take them over the LA Rams.
Okay, well, if it comes down to that, then I'm definitely going to have to figure out a way to give you a point over me because that is definitely more specific. So I'm going to move on to Saturday because we have two Saturday games. I am going to start with the first of the Saturday games. That is the Washington Commanders hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. And that game's going to be way closer than people think. The Commanders are going to keep it tight. The Eagles are going to win at the end because their defense is going to hold on a final drive that the Commanders are trying to win or tie.
Okay, interesting. I think maybe I would. I mean, I did not pick on that game, but I would almost think. I think when you say teams aren't flicking the switch, I think Philadelphia sort of flicked a switch last week. They looked pretty good, and I think they're going to roll right into the playoffs. And I think they're going to probably maybe beat up on your team a little bit. I'm afraid to say, but I did not pick on that game.
That's the Raiders switch, so it doesn't count.
Oh, that's a Raiders switch. Okay.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
well, I also I picked on one of the Saturday games, which I'm sure you're going to talk about here in a second, but I'm going to talk about it first because I think the Bears are going to have a hard-fought win with the Pack with a late Caleb-led drive. I think Caleb's going to make the difference late in the game, put the Bears over the edge.
I'm exact opposite. So I don't have a ton of conviction on this, but I'm going with the Packers.
Ooh,
I
I
think
love it when you pick against me and you pick the Packers because
yeah,
it
yeah,
looked
it
good for me
hasn't
last
gone very
week.
well. It hasn't gone very well. So yes, I'm going Packers. Um, it's more of a gut feeling than anything. I am concerned about losing Parsons for sure, and I didn't know if Christian Watson's going to play or not. Looked like he got a little banged up there at the end of the game, so the Packers were a little bit hobbled. It feels like it's setting up maybe for a Bears win, but something just tells me that they're not quite ready yet. And I got to be consistent because last week I said the Bears are going to be a team that doesn't make the playoffs. Well, pretty much the only way they're not going to make it now, unless something weird happens, is if they lose out. And they kind of have to lose to the Packers. Now, their last two games are the 49ers and the Lions. So this is a tough end. The Bears need this game on Thursday. It gets scary and a little dicey for them if they don't get it. But so I'm going to go with the Packers winning a title.
Yeah, I don't know that the Bears are going to make the playoffs either, but I do think they're going to win this game because I think Ben Johnson, with his experience being in the NFC North as an assistant, sort of knows the numbers against the Pack, especially without having Micah Parsons out there. That was a little factor that I think he really couldn't compensate for, but I think now he can. He knows what this Packers defense is, knows how to attack it, and I think he's got the weapons to do it with his offense. And his defense is playing pretty good ball too. So I
Well, it
think that Bears are going to win that game.
should be a good one.
Yeah. All right. So I think my next selection I went to is that I have the Buccaneers are going to right the ship this weekend. They're going to have a statement win over the Panthers in Charlotte. Baker Mayfield is going to account for at least 3 touchdowns.
Okay. I really don't like it. I'm not opposite. I mean, I'm not picking that. I didn't pick that game, but I actually don't like it. I probably would go with Carolina in that game. I think something's wrong in Tampa. I just think it's been 7 weeks in a row now that they haven't really looked right, even in the couple that they've won. They got defensive guys fighting with each other. They couldn't come close to stopping the Falcons last week. And that's a very blah Falcons offense without Penix, without Drake London. They were running free against the Bucks. So I don't like it. I don't think I don't like it. So I'm opposite of you on that one, but it's not officially on my list.
Well, I think I might have been that way too if it wasn't for I don't know if you could call it a tirade that Tampa's coach had last week, because he always talks in a monotone, very
Yep.
calming, grandfatherly voice, but his expletives they had to bleep out during that whole statement right after that game, the way the Buccaneers lost that game. I think that's going to resonate and send a message to the team. I know Baker Mayfield really didn't want to talk to reporters after a game. Of course, when you have a boo-boo like that near the end, I guess you don't want to either. But usually these guys are professionals, and Baker usually talks. But I think the message is loud and clear to the Buccaneers players, and they're going to respond in a very positive way.
Gotcha. We'll have to see. I am going to go to Dallas for my next pick. I'm going to go back to the well. Last week, I said that I thought it was a bad spot for the Cardinals. I'm sorry, not the Cardinals, the Chargers, heading into Kansas City, coming off a tough, hard-fought game against the Eagles, a hard-fought win against the Eagles. And now I'm going to do it again. This game doesn't matter that much for the Chargers. It really doesn't. Of course, they'll not say that, but they're kind of the chart with Denver winning last week. The Chargers' odds of winning that division are dwindling. It's not over. So they still have plenty to play for, but I don't think it's like this huge game for the Chargers. I think they might be their offensive line is still so banged up and struggling. They really skated by these last two games, and I think Dallas is in their favorite spot because the game now doesn't matter that much. So that's when Dallas is great. Once Dallas has sort of already blown it, that's when they play their best. So I expect Dallas to bounce back, have a big week, and beat the Chargers in Dallas.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I did not pick on this game, but I don't know if Dallas has anything but pride to play for. I know they're still technically in it, but with 7 losses, they're chasing the Packers with 4 losses, the 49ers with 4 losses.
They're eliminated from the wild card already. They can only win the division.
To win the division. Okay, that's the only way they can get in it. Okay.
And it's 3-0 and 0-3. That's the only way they get in. They got to go 3-0, and the Eagles have to go 0-3.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm looking at this. I'm like, I don't know how they're even still in the bubble, but that makes sense.
Yep, that's it. That's it. So they need us to beat the Eagles on Saturday to keep them alive for that Sunday game. But the odds of the Cowboys winning probably go up if the Eagles do lose, because then if the Eagles win, because then the game means even less for Dallas, and that's when they're great.
Yeah, that's true. Pressure's off, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
All right, interesting pick. I'm going to go to another big boy game where there's a lot of games that are very interesting and really have a big impact on the way this playoff picture is setting up, as I think you alluded to earlier. I'm going to go to the Patriots and the Baltimore game because that's one I'm particularly interested in because it affects the AFC North and the AFC East. And I think that Drake May is for real, and I think he's going to outduel Lamar in this game, clip the Ravens' wings a little bit, and hold the defense of the Patriots with Coach Vrabel is going to lead them to holding Baltimore's offense to 21 points or less in this game for a big Patriots win to keep their lead over the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East.
That is not my last pick, but it almost was, and it almost would have been identical because I also like New England to get back. We've said many times I don't think the Ravens are right. I think there's actual problems there, and I anticipate you being correct in your pick. But my last pick, I ended with the Steelers last week. I'm going to end with the Steelers again this week, except this time, if I'm right again, this time you won't be nearly as happy come this time next week because I think the Lions are going to roll the Steelers on Sunday, and I think the Lions are going to continue to do their sort of roller coaster up and down by the week, being much better at home in general as well, especially offensively. I think their offense is going to give the Steelers a lot of trouble. I think they're going to win that game by 10 or more, and the Lions defense will bounce back a little bit. Again, I know you don't want to admit it. It's probably not a huge game for the Steelers, really, considering that they still have that Week 18 game with the Ravens, and especially if we think the Ravens are going to lose anyway this week, it really may not wind up mattering all that much for the Steelers. So I've got the Lions winning by 10 or more.
I mean, I I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. And actually, probably that's probably more so the what will happen rather than any other way. Because, like you said, there really isn't any pressure on the Steelers this week. The Ravens have a much tougher schedule. Playing Patriots like we just talked about this week. They play Green Bay, who's in a fight next week, so it's important for Green Bay to win next week. And they play head to head with Baltimore. So technically, the Steelers could lose their next two games, and maybe even lose to the Baltimore game doesn't even mean anything
Right.
at that point, because they could easily lose their next two games, and the Steelers have the Detroit and Cleveland before they play Baltimore.
Right.
So yeah, there could be, in the way that they've played, and like I told you earlier, they always make Week 18 a very important game. They probably will
Buckle
find
up.
a way to do it this week as well. But yeah, I wouldn't doubt that a bit.
All right.
Well, I am going to pick a little bit of a Christmas miracle as my last selection here. I am going to take Philip Rivers and those Indianapolis Colts to knock off the 49ers in the game this weekend. I know many people are writing the Colts off, even with Rivers coming in and playing well. They're on the bubble, but I think that they can get their way back into contention. Maybe they won't make the playoffs, but make it interesting. Be right on the edge of that bubble, or get inside the playoff picture with Rivers, because he's given them a little bit of a momentum. People are believing, even in a loss. That's a good Seattle team they lost to. I think they do it this week, and Rivers maybe becomes the AFC Player of the Week, even with this win.
That's a fun pick, and I think a lot of us, myself included, kind of root for it. It was kind of fun to watch him on Sunday. But the truth of the matter is, he wasn't very good. He was great for a 44-year-old that hasn't played football in 5 years, but that's not what we're really grading against, right? We're grading against just being an NFL quarterback. And he wasn't a great NFL quarterback on Sunday. Struggled to get to about 100 and I think 130 yards passing. The offense looked very limited, and the guy can't move. So any kind of pressure is going to be problematic. It's a great story. It's cool. It's really impressive that he could even be competent. He threw a touchdown pass, so that's great. But I think it's a long shot on Monday night against the 49ers. And the quietest 10-4 team of all time, lurking right behind the Seahawks and Rams. And if the 49ers beat the Colts on Monday, they're going to be tied with whoever's in second place in that division, the loser of the Thursday night game, and just one game behind the winner. So I think the Niners get it done, but I'll probably be rooting for you to be right, because that'll be a fun story.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is this game's in Indy, and I think having that crowd behind them a little bit, being a Monday night game, and crazy things happen on Monday Night Football, especially during the holidays. This is going to make it that much more impactful. But I think, Grandpa Rivers is going to shake some rust off. He's going to have a big week and put
And
them over.
and crazy things happen in Monday Night Football games that aren't Monday Night Football, as we've learned earlier today.
Yeah. So that's why I deemed it the Christmas miracle, because I think
There
it's
you
gonna.
go. I like it. I like it. Well,
I
I
think it,
wanted I wanted to end, Darren. We started talking about a fake soldier, me. So I wanted to end with one of our very loyal listeners. I told you I've brought a couple stragglers with me. So a real soldier, a guy who spent 30-ish years serving our country. His name is Matt, good friend of mine. I've known him since we were very young. And I don't know if I don't know if we can call him a listener or not, because what he does is he's a ballot box stuffer for your podcast. What he does is he will put it up on YouTube, Spotify, all the different platforms, and let it play through several times and so I don't know if he actually ever watches or not, because he's too distracted, Darren, by this season, because this is not Christmas. That's not what's important to him right now. It is McRib season for my buddy Matt. And so he has two loves in this world. He loves the McRib and he loves eggnog. And somehow, some way, he has managed to combine them. He sent me a picture the other day of his McRib next to a big foaming, frothy glass of eggnog. And it almost made me go to the cardiologist just looking at it. So this is just a shout out to Matt because he may not be with us much longer if he keeps up the eggnog and McRib habit. But I just wanted to thank him for giving us all.
Don't put that on him, Ricky Bobby. Don't put that on him.
I wanted to give him a shout out for all of the clicks and follows. I think he even commented on the YouTube channel last week that, hey, where's my shout out? So here it is. Enjoy the pod, enjoy your eggnog, and enjoy your 45th McRib of the McRib season.
I was going to say that when you were saying he just is maybe not a thing, he contributes because I think he's the one that made a comment on last week. So it's
yes,
we welcome Matt, and like I said, Matt, I have your back, so we're with you. I'll eat a McRib sandwich and have a glass eggnog with you anytime. So
oh boy,
keep it up.
All right, yeah, all right. Well, that's it.
All right. Well, we are wrapping up this week and going into another great week next week, where we'll take a look at the selections next week, the Christmas holiday special of the show. I don't know that we'll do anything special except maybe have a Christmas theme somehow, but we'll have some great football and some great analytic talk and some picks next week. So good luck to you, Ed, and hope that 4-point lead of yours doesn't deteriorate too much this week.
I got this, Darren.
That's all the football history we have today, folks. Join us back tomorrow for more of your football history. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.